Hey, you. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Layers to Love on your favorite podcast platform. Let's get into it. Hey, ladies.
Hey.
So, I feel like we should have a conversation because we have so many side conversations and we're filling the audience in and they're not quite sure the timeline that we mentioned a couple of things, so I just feel like we should get it out of there. A couple of things that we have mentioned is we've all experienced grief, and the grief that we have all experienced, it has been recent.
Yeah.
So I think that we should fill the audience in since we already covered friendship, we covered relationship, and so let's get into the grief part, okay?
Okay.
All right. My experience of grief. So, as I shared with you guys in the family episode, I come from a large family. Our parents had 11 children, and I was raised by my stepfather. So, I experienced the loss of two siblings. The first experience I had with death is I lost my sister. My sister's name was Robin, and she went through a period of just struggling with life, struggling with her health, and she went into the hospital. She had been in the hospital for about a month, and I went to go see her on Saturday. I was expecting her to come home. I saw her Saturday, I saw her Sunday, and then she passed away on Tuesday. And she has 4 children and grandchildren, and they lost their mother. Our family is extremely close, and we had to experience that. In that moment of us losing my sister, because we haven't experienced death like that, coming from a large family, our biological father passed away in 2008. And so fast forward 2018, we lose my sister. Fast forward again in 2020, we lost my mother. So my mother was diagnosed with a stomach cancer. We went into the emergency room with her having some stomach pains and her discomfort. She had a CT and she knew what it was. She didn't want to dig further and stuff like that. She wanted to live her best life that she can. In that journey of her living her best life, I got 15 months out of my mom, the best 15 months ever. One thing that I can say about this phenomenal woman that I brag about, and I'm so fortunate to have that in my life, my mother prepared us for her death. She had an open conversation, and we knew that she was going to pass away. And we made the best use of that time that we had with her. I took her to her doctor's appointments. My mother hung out with me on Fridays, and sometimes she stayed with us for the weekend. She was very, very close to all of her children, and we didn't focus on her passing. We just made the best use of that time. So the day that my mom had passed away, she had a conversation with all of her kids, all of her the bulk of her grandchildren, her friends. She was adamantly just conversating with all of us. Deep down, I will always say that my mom knew. She knew what was going to happen, and so she just wanted to give us closure. When I say my mother gave us closure, she gave us closure. She gave us flowers. She gave us everything that you can think of and experience with that. She did. My mother was with me when she passed away. If you follow me, you know that I shared the story that it wasn't even a mile, the distance between my mother's house and my house that I took her in. My mother passed away in my arms. I thought that she was going to throw up, and she took her last breath in my vehicle, in my car. It was hard for me to turn around and call my family members and let them all know that my mother had passed away, because it was just like, what? We just talked to her, and she did. Like, my mother made sure she had her own bath, and she did. But that was just a phenomenal person that she was, and she prepared us. And one thing that we decided that we wasn't going to do is, because as a family, you have your situation, and you have a tendency to fight. We just decided that we was not going to fight. And with my mother passing, we have the closest relationship ever. So to fast forward, I'm taking care of my stepfather. And my stepfather, he's declining. Actually, I thought my stepfather was going to pass away after my mother passed away because he just loved this woman so much. And we just thought that he was going to die over a broken heart, but he didn't. We like to joke and laugh and say that my stepfather had 100 lives because he would be in the hospital and then they would be like, if he makes it through the weekend, we'll see. The weekend would come and they were like, okay, we're going to discharge him. And first thing he'll say is, take me to Bojangles. So, but when he got to the point that he was going to pass away, we had an episode last year in August of 2023. And he was kind of declining from there. November, he said to me, he wants me to leave him alone. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll leave you alone. So I decided that I was going to just let him decline. And I did. And I let him decline. So with my dad, my stepfather, he passed away in January. This past January 2nd, he passed away. He was 94. So I don't have parents. And it's awkward to say that. I know so many people have experienced that they don't have parents, but that's the dynamics of it. I don't have parents. Another thing I wanted to kind of rewind and say too is I lost my mother in May of 2020. I lost my brother December. 2 people I lost in 2020. And then, fast forward 4 years later. So it is May that you're hearing this episode. It's May, and we're coming up on the anniversary of that. My sister passed away in the beginning of the month, and my mother passed away in the middle of the month in May. And so I always have those feelings where I'm thinking about them and I'm mourning. I do less crying than I did initially because I'm at peace and I have closure from their passing. And I'm just thankful for that. I allowed myself to mourn. I allowed myself to grieve. I allowed myself to go through all of the feelings of death. And I just feel like it motivated me to be in this healthy state, this healthy frame of mind. There's feelings of acceptance that I don't have parents. And my parents are not here. But they did what they were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful for that. They made a foundation for us. And my mother always strived on the thought of saying, I want you to miss me, but I want you to move on. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. I miss her.
You can tell just by that. She was strong.
Right. She was just like this amazing, phenomenal person, this phenomenal being. I can go on and on and on and on telling you stories about my mom, but and my dad, my biological father. He was a stickler, but he still was a fun person. But like I said, he passed away in 2008, and that relationship was always. I respected him for the fact of being my father, but my bond was with my stepfather, who raised me and who took care of me.
Yeah, so my story is a bit with grief. I'll start back actually in 2017. So as I said in previous episodes, I was raised by my aunt, who I also refer to as my mom. But I also have obviously my biological mother. And I was not close to her at all. I stayed, we lived about 4 hours apart, and I was raised with my aunt, so we didn't have much of a connection. And I always thought that, even if, because she was really sick, even if she, I always thought even if she did pass, because she was in and out of the hospital a lot, I was like, yeah, it probably wouldn't affect me that much. But when she officially passed and I got that news on Facebook, because I just wasn't connected in with my family, I saw it on Facebook, it broke me. It broke me in ways I had never experienced that before. I thought about how I didn't know her, and even at her funeral, I was in the limousine with my grandma and my siblings, and I asked my grandma, and I was like, what was her favorite color? Right. What was she like? I don't know, what do I get from her? Is there anything that in my personality that's like her? It just opened up so many questions that I wish I had the opportunity to ask and to get before. So I didn't have that closure with her at all. The last time I saw her, I was 23. So we moved from Maryland when I was 8 years old, and the next time I seen her, I was 23. When I saw her when I was 23, she was in the hospital. I went to go visit her in the hospital. Okay. That was the last time I saw her. Okay. So, I just wasn't expecting that to impact me the way that it did, but it really, really did. I literally up and left, my life. It really messed me up. I started a new life. I moved, all kinds of stuff. So that happened. So that's my biological mother situation. So with my aunt, I had a bit of, for some time, her and I wasn't on the same page. I had moved. Again, we weren't very connected. Okay. But I got a call one day from her, and it was just this period. It was this week. It was a weekend, random week in October, right? And she's calling me every day, and we're on the phone for hours. Now, me and her haven't talked for years at this point, but for some reason, she's on the phone with me for hours. When I tell you 10 hours, we're on and off the phone all day, just talking, laughing, all that kind of stuff. She's sending me videos. And then all of a sudden, she's like, I really need to tell you something. And I'm like, yeah, what's going on? She was like, I just want to say, I'm petrified. I was like, petrified? What's going on? So she was like, let me call your brother. So we all three were on the phone. And she was saying, I'm just really petrified. It's something seriously going on, but I'm just petrified. I'm scared. And I'm like, what is going on? But she won't tell us exactly what it is. Right. I actually have, ironically, that on that call. I knew then, I was like, I'm going to record. So I literally still have the recording of her with that conversation with my brother.
Wow.
Yeah, I have that recording because I knew something was going on. And so my brother prayed for us and everything. And then I told her, Mom, I got to get some rest, and then I'm going to get on the road, and I'll be there tomorrow. So I told her, hey, I'm going to try to go to bed by 10. 5 o'clock in the morning, I was up on the road. And I was coming all the way from Dallas, Texas to North Carolina.
And you drove?
20-hour drive. Nonstop. Because I just knew something was up. So I got there, spent, some time. That was my first time seeing her in some years. There was something obviously wrong, but she didn't make it known at all. She sat a certain way on the couch. She wouldn't get up from the couch. If I was upstairs, then she'd get up from the couch and do something. And so I'm just like, something's going on. And then one day I saw something, and I called my brother. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going back home or whatever. But I saw something, and I called my brother and I said, bruh, something is seriously wrong. And I told him what I observed. And I said, it was October, so November I had another break coming up, and I said, I'm coming back, but something is going on. And so November I came back, and another observation of something. We had to help her out of the tub. Right. We, in the process of helping her, we observed blood. And so we were like, okay, nah, something really, really is going on. My mom's she was stubborn. She did not want to tell us. So, okay, fast forward. Once again, I go back to Texas in December, right? And then one day I get a call from my brother where he's like, hey sis, I'm taking mom to the hospital. Like, she ain't got a choice. Because he observed something and she finally told him what was going on. It was so bad. My brother even told me, because at the time I hadn't seen it, I was always in Texas, and he was like, sis, mom ain't gonna make it. And he kept saying, mom ain't gonna make it, sis, mom ain't gonna make it. And so I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm always in Texas, you know? So I'm talking to him, and he was like, sis, I'm telling you, mom ain't gonna make it. I don't know how long she got, she ain't gonna make it. So I come back as soon as I could, back to North Carolina. She was admitted to the hospital. We finally figured out, I finally seen what was going on. I had to nurse wounds. I became her caregiver. I didn't leave her side. I would literally stay in North Carolina for 3 weeks, and then I would go back home because I was married at the time. For a week, I would come right back. And when I tell you, I became her caregiver, like every day I was next to her. When she was in the hospital, I slept on the hospital couch. I did not leave my mom. And anytime I needed to necessarily take a break from the hospital, my brother would come up there. So it was always somebody with her the whole time. Right. That experience was the closest I've ever been to death. And it changed me in a lot of ways. To see someone who is known for being so strong and known for just being just this powerhouse, to the point where you have to help this person bathe. You have to help this person go to the bathroom, and you have to help this person just sit up in anything. So seeing that and observing that, it changed me a lot. And then also just knowing her personally, one of the things me and my brother always said, we took great care of her. And she said that, she clarified that to me before she passed. She said specifically to me, I was bawling, crying. I was sitting next to her, we was talking or whatever, and she was like, I just want to say, Erica, I want to thank you and your brother. She was like, I want to say I could not have asked for better children to be here for me. She said, I have not, in this process, I have not felt alone. I have not felt scared. She was like, I just want to say, I appreciate y'all, and y'all did what y'all was supposed to do. And when she said that, I knew. I mean, we had already kind of just through observation, we knew. But it was just kind of that still that she gave me, that even in the time frame that we weren't together and we were, not the closest, right, it validated that for me. It gave me I did what I was supposed to do as a daughter. I took care of her. I did what I was supposed to do. So yeah, she passed in February of 2022. I lost my granddad in April, her father, in April of 2022. And then I went through a divorce in May. I started the divorce process in May of 2022. So, and then I got sick, and I began to get sick and have symptoms of health issues in June of 2022. So that was a very challenging year, to say the least. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
We're going to take a quick break, but did you know that Layers to Love is on IG? Why not follow and put a face to our voices and see the fun things that we do when we're not recording? That's Layers, 2, Love on IG.
My mother and I, we had a very close relationship until I was 15, and then it kind of fell apart, and I kind of disappeared, because that's what I do. When stuff doesn't go right, I disappear. And we had a very tumultuous relationship for a lot of reasons. But I loved her. But we had a very bad relationship. We argued a lot. And I spent a lot of time trying to make her understand how I felt about things. She always had little small things wrong with her, but in 21, she got COVID. She was getting sick and all this stuff, but we had the house set up where nobody could go there, because you remember COVID started in 20. So the grandkids couldn't go over there because they were still out in the street partying like COVID wasn't happening. Yeah. So we made sure that they understood you are not to go to your grandmother's house because she had health issues. Me and my brother and my sister would go over there, with masks on and take our clothes off, do all the little precautions that you were supposed to do. What little did we know, because my mom, even though she and I didn't get along, she loved us and her grandkids, especially she loved all of us. But her grandkids were a soft spot for her. They could ask her for anything. Even if she fussed about it, she would still provide it. And one of the things that she did was allow them in the house, unbeknownst to us, her children. And that's how she got COVID. But we didn't know that at the time. We just knew she was declining, and I wasn't sure why, because my mom was very...
like spunky?
Very spunky. And then all of a sudden she was just going down, and it was rapid. And then when she couldn't breathe, that's when we took her to the emergency room. We got her to the emergency room. And something that she did that let me know she trusted me beyond what I thought, she handed me her pocketbook.
You know how that is.
Yeah, she was one of those. My grandmother was like that too. Carried a pocketbook hooked on her arm all the time. She handed me her pocketbook, and because it was in the deep of COVID, we couldn't stay there with her. That broke my heart. So they called us maybe an hour or so later and tell us my mom got COVID. Mm-hmm. And I knew she wasn't going to make it. Right. I knew it. And I was trying to break it to my brother and my sister without sounding negative. But when the pneumonia cleared, she was not the same person that I knew. She was cold all the time, and she was just real sickly, and I would go up in her room, and this is when they started allowing us to go in there. I would go in there, and she allowed me to give her a bath, but she had some issues going on, but she didn't want anybody else to touch her, but she let me give her a bath. I braided her hair. This is when I knew my mom was really sick. My mom had dentures, and nobody knew she had dentures except me. I cleaned her dentures. I cleaned her mouth out, and then I said, "So you want me to put them back in?" She was like, "You would take them things somewhere." She didn't want them. And that's when I knew she really was sick, because she never let nobody see her without them. I was taking care of her, but they put her in rehab because she had to learn to walk again and everything again. Her oxygen levels were really low, and they couldn't explain why. And they put her in rehab. The same day they took her to rehab, they had to take her back to the hospital. And they never really explained that, but I think she had COVID again.
Okay.
They never really explained that. Then they got her to a point where they could put her in rehab again. When they got her in rehab, we couldn't go in to see her. We had to look at her through a window.
Mm. Yeah. Because of COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And outside. So we would be, I never did the outside the window thing because I just could not do that. But I would call her, and then I got the lady that was in there to put her on Zoom, and she would be pulled up to her neck. She was just a totally different person. She was just not herself. And I knew she was going to die, but my brother and sister didn't. So the night that the day before she died, we had a meeting with the doctors, the nurses, social workers. They wanted to put her in a nursing home, and we didn't want to do that, but yet we couldn't afford to take her home either because all of us work. So we were trying to decide what we were going to do, but my mother didn't want to stay in a nursing home. So that she was in on a meeting, and we talked to her, and She couldn't eat because she didn't have any taste buds. She was just wasting away. So that was the day before she died. The day that she died, the nurses called us and said, your mom has called 911. Your mom has called 911 twice. And she told them that she was lonely and she wanted somebody there with her. And of course, we couldn't go. And then she died.
Yeah.
So they called us maybe an hour after that phone call, and they said that she had a heart attack. And so the reason why she was cold and the reason why she couldn't get her oxygen together was because she was losing blood, and she had an upper GI bleed, and that triggered the heart attack. And so we go to the hospital, and they're trying to resuscitate her. And my mother is fragile, and I didn't want them pounding on her chest, but my brother and my sister wanted them to keep going, and they did. And when she died, we were just kind of sitting there. I know we sat there for about 30 minutes, just sitting there, because I could not believe that Doris was gone. We had the funeral. She died on the 8th of March. We buried her. We cleaned out her house, and we did that all kind of mechanically. What I learned from that was I wasted, right before, probably the year before my mother died, I had a conversation with her, and I explained to her, I don't think that you're ever going to get how I feel, but I'd rather just be able to spend time with you versus argue with you. So we never had another argument.
Oh, that's good.
And so I'm so happy I did that. But then after she passed, I would think about all the time I wasted trying to make her see my point of view. That was 21. December 22, my dad died. My biological dad died. I didn't have a tight relationship with him, but he had called me probably a month before he died and started telling me things. Basically, I asked him, did he want to come live with me? Mm-hmm. And I would, take care of him. He got COVID like that May. He had always had diabetes, but when he got COVID, it changed the dynamics of his diabetes, and it was rapid. It was a rapid change, and all of a sudden they were saying that his kidney functioning was like 5%, and they wanted to put him on dialysis, and he refused to do it. Long story short, I finally talked him into it. The day that he went to go get the whatever that
they
thing,
put a shunt in.
So that they could do the dialysis. He died the next day. He had a heart attack also. That hit me hard, but not as hard as my mom. I've always been with my mom, so the relationship thing was different. And then last year, in October of 23, my little brother died. He had a stroke in March, and my brother was a man's man. He took care of his family. He went to work every day. He had his first child when I want to say he was like 15, 16, and he had been working since then. Never skipped a beat. He was that dude. He always held down financially his family. So when he had that stroke, and he's younger than me, so when he had the stroke and he could not, they told him he couldn't go back to work because his vision was bad. He couldn't drive. He had to use a cane. He was letting us know that he was not happy, and he took his life in October. And I know none of us saw that coming. I really believe, I know that my brother couldn't stand the idea of not being the breadwinner of his family, not being able to take care of he has 4 daughters and his wife. I don't think he could. I know he couldn't see himself not being the one handling everything. And I think that contributed to him just doing what he did.
We had experience as your mother. She didn't tell her kids that she was going to die. And so going through that, by the time the kids got there, which, it's my boy's grandmother, by the time they got there, they're saying goodbye. She's declining. And, my ex was just like, what? And it caused beef between us because it was a little situation, and I'm respecting his mother. I'm not going to go into that to respect their privacy. But my mother made it a point to say, I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm going to be clear. I'm going to let you know what's going on with me. I want you to respect what I want to do with my health. I want you to respect everything that I have going on. And my brothers was not that receptive to it. And we kept pushing my mom, like, make sure you're clear. Make sure you're clear with telling them I'm going to die. Make sure that you're clear. My mother got to a point where she was kind of layering her clothes because she was getting tiny. We never had to bathe her. Her pride wouldn't allow us to bathe her. Like when I say my mother took a bath the morning that she died, got in the tub, got out the tub. She was that beast of a woman. Her pride gave her this enormous amount of strength. But she wanted it to be so clear to the kids, I'm not going to be here. She didn't want to mimic that behavior of the experience that my ex and their children had. So she was like, I have to tell them, I have to tell them. They eventually got to the place where they were on board and they were like, okay, she's going. Let's make the best use of this time. I'm thinking back and reflecting on what you're saying, that you were a caregiver to your mother. I was my mom's caregiver, and I had been my mom's caregiver for a long time. From the time that she got diagnosed with her breast cancer. And my mom's breast cancer, we found it at a stage 2. She had to do some radiation. My mother and you know, they were closely diagnosed together. And so it was at a stage 2. Everything was fine, but with the stomach cancer, we knew we couldn't fight this. So that's why I was saying my mother was very clear, very intentional with, we're going to make the best use of this time. And that's what we did. Our conversations were just beautiful. Our, just, nothing changed. I share with you guys, I've always had a healthy relationship with my mom. We've all of us, we had a healthy relationship with my mom. Nothing changed. It's just in that moment, we had to make it count. And did we make it count? We did.
That's awesome.
We made it count all the way to the end. And that was the closure that she gave me.
Yeah, my mom, she knew, but we didn't know.
Right.
And so
didn't know.
Now, after she passed away, and I reflect on the time that I was there, I can see her make that effort and say those things, and see in certain things, like we would play games. Like she'd just be like, I just want to play, card game or whatever. So I can see like now where she was doing that, and we would have long conversations. We'd be up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning just talking. So yeah, after she passed, I realized that's what she was doing. But during that time, I didn't realize the severity of the situation. So
I wish we had that time. She just got sick, and the good thing was that we were taking care of her. We were going in there, getting rid of her candy stash. I made some of the best smoothies for her. But we did not have any preparation for... No, I had preparation because I felt deep down inside that she wasn't going to make it through this, because she was steadily getting so fragile and she was just so sickly, and I had never seen her like that. So I knew, and I was talking to God about it and preparing my mind for it, but I didn't get to have those deep conversations with her. I didn't. Now, before she got sick, and I told you that probably that year or more before that, I just came to her one day and was like, you know what, I'm tired of arguing. And I just really realized we're never going to see eye to eye. And I'd rather just not argue anymore. That was probably the smartest thing I ever did in my whole life, because from that point forward, I learned so much about her and about her background. So for like a year and a half prior to her death, I had that time, but I was not prepared. I was not expecting her to die. Like she didn't say, I'm going to die, so da-da-da-da. My mom was fighting that with every fiber in her body. She was not trying to leave here. But I am glad that we had that moment, those moments when I went in there and took care of her, bathed her. She was telling me some of the stuff I couldn't even tell you because my mom could have a little filthy mouth. But
the takeaway with this and what I have experienced with this grief process is I've always had a very open relationship with my kids in regards to my health. They know where I stand in the decisions that I want to make. I have always been very open with my family. Decisions that I want to make and keeping everybody on board. I think personally, if it wasn't for the experience that we had with my son's grandmother, we wouldn't have moved that way. My mother would have moved in secrecy too. Yeah. But she knew how much of an impact that had. And it was very hurtful to see her, my exes go through that and his siblings. And she was like, I'm not going to do that to y'all. And so she was open, breaking generational curses, because sometimes our parents can be private and do this. So my takeaway from this is conversations are tough, but have these conversations with your children. Let them know where the policies are. Let them know what accounts that you have. Have these conversations with them. They are hard, but anything can happen. I found out that last month I lost a childhood friend. My brother called me and was like, look, she passed away. And, it's when people lose, you lose people and they're so close in age, you think about your own time and what you can do. And if something happens to me tomorrow, the kids will know what to do. Even my daughter will know what to do. Will they miss me? Yes, but I also make it very, very clear. You're going to grieve and mourn the way I did, because I set the example for them. They see me cry. I have been vulnerable with my tears. They see me prepare. They see me care. They see me love. They see me make the best use of my time with my mother and with my stepfather. And that's all I want. Be there and do that. What's your takeaway?
I was actually you kind of hinted at it, but I was actually going to ask both of you, and I'll answer as well, but just advice to anyone who might be going through that situation at this very moment, or, maybe they'll hear this and remember what, anything, the advice that we give. For me personally, what I'll say is understanding that the initial shock will pass. I think in that moment, like when I lost my mom, that moment felt like it was going to last forever, and that pain, the pain never goes away. But the initial just shock of the situation and the severity of the pain that you feel will pass, and you'll be able to have those good memories and stuff. For a while, for a very, very long time, the only way I can picture my mother was in those last few moments. But that's not authentically who she was. Like, we know her personality, so now I can talk about her and just be like, she, Chevelle, you know what I mean? Right, she,
yeah. Like I said too,
I'd
Sylvia don't play.
Right, exactly. You can do that now. So understanding that those last moments were not, that wasn't her identity. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
Definitely keep that in mind and remember the good times. And understand that initial shock and that grieving, you will have to feel that, and you need to feel it. But understand that is not going to be your everyday for the rest of your life. Because once again, like I said, my mom was known for being such a strong woman, and literally, so even though we knew, it still was really, really quick at the same time. It's like February 6th, I have text messages from her of us going back and forth about getting something from the store, saying, hey, I need this or whatever. Going into the hospital on the 12th. and then by the 20th, she can't even speak anymore.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
How
it's just
that
like,
process was.
just, it's like not, I'm like, what in the world? Like, just that quick,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I think that was, like I said, my first initial experience with death that close, and it was just shocking. So seeing that, but after some time now, like when I talk about her, we talk about how crazy she was and stuff like that. Now we just laugh and stuff. So
My takeaway is, if you have your parent, don't spend time on stupid stuff, like arguing about this and arguing about that. It's not worth it. Really make the best of that time that you have with your parent or that loved one. I also think about how fast she went. There wasn't a whole lot of time to do anything. My mother was smart because she knew not to leave these women, me or my sister, in charge of nothing. She left my brother in charge of everything, and he handled it like the man he is. He was like boom, 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 and it was there was not any major arguments. I kind of stepped back and let them do what they had to do because my faith is a little different than theirs, a lot different than theirs. So I allowed them to handle it that way. And I'm glad that I did. I didn't see the need to make a big argument about things. Just a quick thought. I remember when your mom was in hospice, and I went to see her. And it always amazed me. You know, I had never seen her like that before.
Right.
And we used to get our nails done. And I said to her, and you know, she was not with us, like awake, but I said to her, I said, you need to get out of that bed because look at your nails, they jacked up. We need to go get our nails done. And she said, And I thought, can she hear me?
Yeah, I think they still can hear for a while.
Yeah, they can hear.
They can hear for a while.
Yeah.
For a while.
I think the hearing like the last
hearing
thing?
is
I think the
last
hearing
thing.
is the last, so they tell you to be careful. Because I used to be a hospice social worker, and I used to tell their family members, don't argue around her just because she's not conscious. They can still hear you.
So now that you know this very intimate part of us, when we make the comment and say, I was going through this, I was experiencing this, like we've all had experiences just as much as you have. Anything that you guys want to mention to us, drop us in a comment. We continue to keep each other in prayer. We know that it's difficult, losing a loved one, losing a family one, and it's important to think about anybody who is experiencing a recent death. This episode should touch your heart. We're thinking of you, and we don't even know you. We're praying for you, and we don't even know you because we've been there and we've done that. Losing a mother, losing a child. I didn't experience losing a child, but those are one of the most difficult things that we had to experience. So, we're all in this together. We're humans, and we're dealing with imperfection, and people, we lose loved ones on a daily basis. No one is promised tomorrow, but for the time being, we love you guys. We appreciate it. This is just the vulnerable side of us, and we want you guys to get to know us. So we're pouring out our hearts to you, and next week we'll make you laugh, but we know that this was tough, and we appreciate you guys. So on that note, bye. Hey you, thanks for tuning in to the podcast. If you've been inspired by today's episode and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to Layers to Love on your favorite podcast platform. Since we are in the early stages of Layers to Love, we would appreciate it if you would share the podcast with your friends and family. Just simply click the episode and send it, which can help us reach more listeners and build a supportive community. Until the next episode, take care.